how are you?
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me here, Jade. I'm very well. Yourself?
I'm very well, thank you, Enrico. I'm so thrilled to be able to speak with you and to share this conversation. We've just had a little snippet together, and I'm already buzzing on these conversation that we're going to
Likewise.
have.
Likewise.
So look, I'm going to jump in because we've got to give people a little bit of an essence about what it is that you do, although there's this wonderful backstory that we'll get to too. But maybe you could do it better than I can, Enrico. What is your profession at the moment? What is it that you're currently loving and
So,
doing?
yes, I'm a flower technician and a pizza maker. And basically, my first job is the main job is the one to help pizza maker to achieve what they need in terms of final product. So by being a flower consultant means I worked in a flower mill lab where we structure, we try, and we basically we look after all the flour for pizza. So in more simply speaking, we basically help a pizza maker to achieve, like I say, what they really want to achieve on the pizza, any kind of style of pizza.
Which is world class. You're being very demure about that, but you are a world class flour pizza technician, which is incredible. So the people that you've obviously worked with around this globe is fantastic.
Yeah, I travel a lot, and a lot of people travel to come to see me. Then it's the most rewarding things than I can ask for.
Yes.
So it's something that is very particular and slightly unique here in Australia. Doesn't have this kind of job here. In Italy, every flour mill have few technicians, and they always subdivide in flour for pizza, flour for bread, and flour for cake. So each of these has a person that look after basically
Fantastic.
a
Right.
team that look after specialized, let's say, in product with those different flour. Just to let you know, for example, that not many
Yes.
people know, for pizza we have 27 line of flour.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I
Yes.
know. People think that, flour for pizza is just one or two. No, there is many, many more. And, there is an endless way to do so, to try, to understand, to...
It's such a universally loved, I must say, I don't think I've ever, and obviously I know what you do goes so much beyond, but I've never really met anybody that doesn't love pizza, if I'm honest. I think it's real because it comes down to it connects to the social of what pizza is, that
Absolutely.
sharing. And, but so we've got all of this, but I can't wait to ask you, growing up then, obviously Italy, so we
Yeah.
should highlight that. That's the reason probably why it is as good as it all is for you and the passion. But was there something growing up for you, Enrico? Was there a person that really has brought this passion about? Or how is it that the passion sort of started from a young age where you knew this was you?
So definitely he's, we highly connect in food, and that's, mostly Italian. We gather in, and, sometimes I say, life is about food, especially in Italy. We're looking for lunch, we're looking for dinner, when there is any, celebration. So I think then definitely is something that is on our DNA. Is in every single human being DNA, I believe, because having a meal is something that people was gathering million years ago. The meal
So
time
true.
has always been like that in any country in the world, in every single city. Definitely in Italy, for the biodiversity of food in every region, we really create something unique out of the produce that we have, and that's something that basically I think is always there. But definitely was something that I love was the dynamic of the job. Basically, when you stand up and you see the fire going on the oven, and you see the pizza maker, and you see the immediate reward, that's
Yes.
probably what really draw my passion, is really the fact that when you cook something in general, about pizza especially, is something that you have the immediate reward from people, because as soon as someone eat the pizza, they might look at you if you are the pizza maker. They might come to you and say, "Wow, this is the best pizza I have had," and that's probably is the main reason why I love it. After then, it starts like a job, a summertime job, like many
Yes.
other people, but I really pick my passion up, and the fact that every night was a different dynamic, different people on the crew that was working, seeing the door differently back then. One day was a little bit more rice, one day was less rice, and it really started to interest me about how come the dough was small one night and bigger the other night.
Such curiosity then.
I'm a very curious person, so that's something that keep drawing my passion. And another things was making pizza. It can be seen as a quite easy job, but it's extremely hard. Not because every job is hard, every job has the up and down, but to be able to be consistent in pizza is extremely hard, because you need to combine such a big amount of element.
Yes.
For example, I can make a perfect dough. With my skills, I can make a perfect dough, but if I burn the pizza or if I put too much topping, it's not gonna become a good product. Using a wood fire oven is extremely complicated to be able to cook perfectly 500, 600 pizza a night, for example. In Italy, that's the numbers,
Yes.
So more challenging than I had, more I love it, and more I couldn't do on the beginning, more I want to do it to be able to be better.
It says so much about you already in that first snippet. One is how curious you are. Secondly, how much people are which I can't wait to get into, because they really are. You're such a people person. It's incredible. And I think people would have already got that about you already. But the fact that obviously you now teach and you pass this on, and it's such a sharing thing for you, even if it's from giving the pizza to someone to eat or teaching someone how to create these wonderful masterpieces yourself, it's very much people driven. And then to know that there's this element of difficulty that you thrive on as well, that you enjoy the challenge of it, which obviously speaking with you before, obviously we touched on here that, you were obviously a fantastic athlete, but you were fantastic at hockey. And that was something that you did early on. But I think it's something about that athletic mindset of, if it's too easy, the challenge isn't there. So obviously you've applied that athletic mindset to how you approach this job, really.
Look, it's true, because you have when you play professionally sport like I did, like many other did, you have a challenge every Saturday, every morning, every day that you're training. You are a team of person. You might stay on the bench because you didn't train well. So the mindset is to give in 1,000% of the time. And if you play against people, then it was easy to play, having really that fun. So definitely the challenge was more, it was, rewarding.
Yes.
Also, we cannot forget then, 15 years ago, when I started, by now it's 17, there was no internet. Okay. So having in pizza study, like read a book, was extremely hard. Being in contact with people 15, 17 years ago was very hard. Now it seems easy. We connect there like right away.
Straight
Instagram.
away. Yes.
Back then was not many information about pizza. There was not many way to learn pizza in deep, especially in a technical point of view. So definitely it was it was very hard, a challenging situation where you want to improve yourself, but you didn't know what to do unless you mistake by yourself or you have someone to ask. But to reach those people always by email, and email wasn't fast like now. It was much more harder to become a professional person in the pizza industry.
So true, and yet you've done it, and I think that's full credit to you, and it's obviously taken you around this pretty little globe, and you've seen and got to see lovely places. You've worked with incredible people, so it leads me to ask then, the journey from Italy to here, what does that look like for you, Enrico?
It looked like an opportunity. I want to really cut off what I used to do in the past. There was a hockey player. I want to start fresh, and I think Australia give you this opportunity. I want to prove myself and other people that might be not believing 100% and I could do another career. People was betting in Italy back then.
I don't know anybody should bet against you, Enrico. I think that was a poor exchange.
They were betting against, then he's going to be back in 6 months, because of course back then I was just play hockey. I was 17, 18. that was my career. So that, people didn't really believe that I couldn't make it, but they
and here
they
you are.
were wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you've been here since 2010. Is that right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
So
And
long
it
standing.
wasn't easy because I didn't speak any word of English at all.
Right.
Actually, the first time that I arrived, the girlfriend back then write me down on my hand, take this train, go to North Sydney, and I was actually having right now on my hand because iPhone was just burned back then. I came here with probably a Nokia. It didn't have any map or anything.
Nothing.
So it was extremely challenging, and it wasn't easy because after as many couple broke up, felt many times quite lonely as well because backpackers, people come and go. In Australia, yes, there is a lot of Italian, but if you want to learn English, you need to just try to not go stay with Italian all the time. It was a roller coaster. Then he really changed also the personality. He really faced many post-sponsor visa. Don't feel part of the community until you have a visa.
Yes.
So it was always about when my visa arrived, working 50, 60, 70 hours a week.
Crazy.
So
yes,
it was it was a challenge, and my challenge was to be able to get a PR and to be able to say to myself, to my family, that I couldn't make it.
Yes,
Probably
absolutely.
I couldn't go back home without a visa. To be honest, I would have felt right.
Yes.
So I'm gone in and go back home all the time to stay in a flour mill. So I will always spend my holiday for work, basically, in Italy.
Yes. So that's what you do. Is it every time you have a holiday, you go back to Italy?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I was in February 1 month, and I spent 3 weeks in laboratory. So that's my, but because I love it, and I think then you never stop learning.
No,
even
absolutely.
for myself. And if I want to give quality training to people, I need to always train it myself.
Yeah, but it's lovely that you love it so much to commit yourself to that. There's been many people listening to this going, if I had a chance to go to Italy, Enrico, I don't think I'd be doing it in a flower lab as such. They'd be out on the beaches, out relaxing.
Yeah.
But it's testament to you how much you love it. And I completely get the visa thing. Obviously, I'm very much in the same boat. I understand that. I had the language. I had certainly a bigger in front than you on that, and it's very daunting even if you do have the language. So I take my hat off to you. You've faced a lot of hurdles and you've conquered all of them, really, and you've managed to do it with the generosity of still that sharing and teaching. So whenabouts did that come into play for you, Enrico, where you started actually teaching and wanting to pass this on and share it?
So basically everything started in 2014 when I won the best pizza in Europe.
Yes, I saw that. I couldn't wait to ask you about that. I think we should just say that again, best pizza in Europe.
And basically back then he opened really doors. A flour mill, then it was here in Australia, it just arrived in Australia, needs someone in the professional team.
Right.
So I went back to Italy. I spent a couple of months there, and that's when I really met masters, because in the flour mill there are those technicians, as I said before, that now I'm part of. I met the best bakers in Italy and in the world, pastry chef. So I really deep down knowledge.
Yes.
And from there, I was coming back here and basically work for the flour mill as a consultant.
Amazing.
I stayed with them for 5 years. Every year, like I say, go back home in laboratory, testing my flour, training myself, of course. And that's when I start to see them people really enjoy my training, and I enjoy to teaching them. So, and that's become something that I really wanted straight away. I want to do this as a living as well. I consult probably, to be honest, since 2014, hundreds of pizzeria
Yes.
of people here in Australia. I can say without much ego on it, but I can say then I really changed. If today we are doing this different style of pizza in Australia, part of it because I bring it in.
Yes, of course. No, I understand that. That's what mastery is, isn't it?
Yeah.
There has to be someone at the top. There has to be someone who's evoking that change and bringing to head the new information, the new skill, and tying it all together, really, which is what teaching is. It's because it is one thing to be great yourself, but it's another thing to be able then to pass that on and to teach it.
Absolutely.
I find that an extraordinary skill, and it's something, like I said, when I was going through, looking through the things that you take the time to share, it's so obvious that you're a natural teacher, but that doesn't make it any less of an achievement on your behalf. You are so very natural with people.
Absolutely. And also, as you were teaching, and in the sport as well, such a great sport players, they are not always good coach.
No, absolutely.
So that's something then you have to have into your DNA, especially in sport. You can see, a preview people then does, won, for soccer, for example, won million of award, Champions League, and after they try to coach it, they are disaster.
Exactly. Because sometimes that's just the way it is. You can't obviously always, as well. I always think sometimes if you're not necessarily passionate about the passing it on, you don't think about how the other person needs to receive that information, which obviously you're very conscious of how people need to take it step by step or learn it, and really feel it with you, which I think is important as well. So you've obviously enjoyed that journey.
I enjoy. It's challenging, don't get me wrong. And another reason why I decided to take this heavily is because, pass me the word, there is a lot of ignorance in pizza industry. I can say, like I say, always honest when I speak, probably 80% of the pizzeria that there are here in Australia, probably in Europe, couldn't survive.
Yes.
Because the final product is not there, but because the people in general doesn't have that knowledge on the food, on pizza.
Absolutely.
You need to have someone that really teach how they're supposed to be, because those days especially is coming down to who do you support.
Yes.
I always see this part for myself. I support people where I go out for dinner, especially. I give money to people where I think they deserve it and they put skills on it.
Yes, absolutely.
And for me, teaching people or teaching a restaurant how to make a good pizza means then I giving the person that spend the $30, whatever, a good meal.
Absolutely.
And that's where I always really push it myself to try to teach as much as I can and the best that I can, because it's coming down to, like I say, support a small business most of the time. And so
and the skill set, obviously they've invested in that themselves, you would presume. If they've got themselves to that good standard, they've maybe taken the time to spend time with you to upskill themselves, then you say how nice it would be to support that, which I know goes back into, I've come to learn from the short time that I've been looking into you, Enrico, which is a deep dive, and I love the rabbit hole that I went down. But you have some really great core principles about what you do, and obviously you're passing that on as well, which I think is so important. But the zero food waste, the making sure it's farm to table, and I love what you said about quality over quantity, which I think is a huge thing for people, but also our environment. So you're obviously passing those on as well.
Yeah, no, that is my core. And everything started, when you're young, you don't really understand, especially when you're coming from a small town like mine. You see, grandparent. I know that sounds like the typical Italian story, but you see your grandparent never waste much, use everything. I remember my grandmother always told me when they used to have cow after the war, they really could not eat much. Everything was no waste. So you're growing up in Italy with this kind of situation. When you arrive here in Australia, everything was completely different. Especially I had my restaurant in Surrey Hills, and one night I was just there, after the service, and as you see those tons and tons and tons of rubbish being out there, and I start to feel like we need to do something here, because there is, there's no endless space to waste our food. There is so much food to get waste, and then I start to resonate in my head, more looking into the planet side, and I say, look, we need to do something. But I really realized when I arrived here to South Australia, South Australia is such a fantastic place. I love it. Honestly, I love it so much. Where I work now, next door, I have a biodynamic organic farm, and you really can feel the situation where you go there and you support really a small business. We need to, in any way, as now there is so much information, Netflix documentary, we know then our resources are limited. We know then making menu of 200 pizza like it used to be in Italy, is not working anymore. No. We know then if I give money to the next door neighbor, he have money to plant another good quality food. If I give the money to the place down to the city, doesn't go to a big corporate. And it's something that we all schools, chef schools, TAFE, executive chef to the head chef to the sous chef, they should teach this one as a first rule. You don't waste, you're recycling, you do the best you can with the product you have. Because I've been consulting so many places. There is such a waste of food, and people next door maybe doesn't have that much opportunity to eat out, to have good food. So we need to do something for this planet, because that's the only one that we have, to be honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it makes me think of, when you're saying about your grandparents and how they don't waste anything, I think as well, there's an argument that out of that reduced resources, or limiting yourself as we would have to do now, surely that spawns creativity itself by saying that I'm not going to work with 500 different ingredients. I'm going to work with, a smaller amount and get creative, basically.
Yeah, and that's when, the zero waste concept of my bread, I start this community. Definitely I need to implement more. Like I want to implement more because I think, I think major company, major media, they should be much more interested on this, because it's something unique that not many people does in the world. So that's something that I'm really proud to take, something that no one was doing before.
Absolutely.
When you start to wasting, it's just flour and water in the end, doesn't cost nothing, but it costs for the ambience, it costs for the concept of, wasting kilo and tons of dough. Like I say, it's nothing. It's just about the way then after you remade this one, and the final result, as you probably saw, is a fantastic things that you can use every day, focaccia, pasta, bread, again. So I think this has to be on the spotlight sooner or later, because, environmental point of view, and giving the sense of, okay, this guy did this. That's a good idea.
Let's share it. Yes.
I try. Or maybe, I'm a chef, I don't have too much dough, but I can try with another ingredient. You know what I mean? So I think this is the concept that has to become every day in our everyday life, especially, out of this zero waste bread. And I started.
And for at home too, it's something that I can certainly say. I very much grew up. My granddad was an Irishman. The concept of making sure that you waste not, want not. You finish what's on your plate, or don't put that much on your plate to begin with. But also, I think it goes back to what you were saying there about there's a skill in just educating everyone as much as possible about how this is really important. You must implement this in your home, and it'll help us all out, and I love seeing people sharing their fruits and veggies from the garden because they've got too much of X and they're giving it to this person over here. And it does happen, but it just doesn't happen enough. That's the issue.
True. And, like I say, those things, they should be in every single program in the TV, at school, in, like I say, every chef school should be having program to teach every single new chef, new career, guys that study for being a chef, this concept to have it in mind. Because in the end of the day, people doesn't understand chefs are the leading people to change the environment in the end of the day, because we are the one that cook the raw material. We are the one that pick up the food every single day, 365 a year. We are the one that's speaking with suppliers. So chef has much more power than what we think we have to be able to change, or at least to make awareness around there,
Yeah. And it should be something that I like that. That's about an empowerment of an entire group of people. If you take every chef and you empower them that way, that actually their voice and their concept about what could happen for the better would be, you think how game changing that could actually be.
It will be. The only problem, the only barrier that I find myself at the moment is media. Unfortunately, I don't know if you know a little bit behind, very hard to pass the message unless you go viral, for example.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
But it's very hard to pass the message if you don't have a backup of a PR company or a marketing company behind.
Yeah, which seems so silly, because then it's not for the people. So that's, large part, I guess, why I hope that podcasts and not mine, but generally, how people connect this way more authentically, people to people. And then it's about the person who's listening. You choose your listening diet more carefully,
Absolutely. Look, as I mentioned before we start, I generally think then your podcast should have much more people than listen to and appreciate it, because you do a great job and very diversified people on your
Thank
podcast.
Thank you, Enrico. It's very kind of you.
Very interesting. But yes, that's silly and something that I always, I understand they live out of this because they job, they are professional people that do marketing, PR companies, but there is certain things then if is, for example, not because it's mine, if someone else will create and it was the same, I was supporting the same. These things about zero waste, these things about, you need to give in a spotlight, because like I say, they have the power to arrive to every single chef in Australia, for example, by do an article, by do a video, by do something, So if media doesn't give enough attention, is a huge barrier of spreading the voice.
Absolutely. And I think it's about trying to connect those dots as much as you possibly can between people, and saying, right, okay, actually the information is there. There are people like you who have dedicated years and years of your life to this through curiosity, through learning the skill. And so therefore there's a lot to pass on, which is why I always use that little statement of teaching is passing it on, but giving education and having a conversation actually is enough. Sometimes that can be enough of a spark to a young chef to say, actually, Enrico here is really right. Actually, I need to really consider this. And that's just that little tiny, it might just change the whole direction of his career. So I think that's why it is so important. But that's why I mean about you being such a incredible person with people, and how you've managed to marry those two things between, obviously, like we've said, the food concept is very much about sharing. So it doesn't take much of the imagination to imagine everything else that you're doing is because you are someone who just genuinely loves sharing. And that's the power.
Absolutely. Like I say, for me, food is everything. And I know for sure, because I study in deep also different, discipline, like for example, mindfulness and, teaching. And if we go back, like I say, through the million of years, food is social, food is gathering, food is joy, to someone else's house, they prepare a meal, and you say thanks, and it's a really high, is something that make feel happy people, is something that connect people, is something that give you any kind of
it's
sensation
life as well, isn't it? At its base level, it's life. Without it,
absolutely.
We don't have one. So it's got all those lovely elements, and I think it's so right of you to bring that into the forefront of people's minds, and we just, in some ways, we need to multiply you, Enrico, and put you in as many places as we possibly can. But so then, having been around the world, and because you would have seen as well, this is your point of view from having traveled the world and having spoken to chefs from around the world. Obviously everybody's on the same plight, I would imagine, that you're speaking to, trying to get to that point where we're not just wasting, and also that quality over quantity. I wanted to touch on how important that was, that people respect that their meal might not be, this, forgive me, the American size. It might just be that you're getting the quality rather than the quantity.
Yes, this is unfortunately another big fight here in Australia, because that's what it was being, given to them. But I give you a small example. I live here in Mount Barker in the hills, Adelaide Hills, beautiful spot. I choose here because I wanted a little bit more green. I saw kangaroo before. Now they are building not many kangaroo anymore, but they open a new area. Okay, this is like 500 meters from where I live at the moment. I just found out not long ago. Then the main concept of the area will be a McDonald's, fried chicken, all big industry, and people on the comment on the Facebook groups of the on the hills here extremely happy.
Yeah, so then we're up against it, because I don't understand it, you see, because there's something I've come to love about the South Australia is that I haven't got there myself yet. I'm kicking myself. Twice I've tried to get there this year and it hasn't happened through one reason or another. But there's something very special about it as a place. Everybody I've spoken to from the South Australia, which is why I wanted to talk to you as well about, what drew you there, because you have the opportunity to be anywhere. But there's something very special about the quality of life that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To conclude, most of those people, they work in small businesses because it's driven by small business. So they know how hard it is for a small business to survive.
Yeah.
So why you will choose to eat McDonald's instead to support your own boss or someone else, small business,
Absolutely.
So also a city, a town, he completely changed the mentality and the way they treat the planet if you choose small businesses. Quality
100%.
instead quantity, so it's a mentality that is wrong. The mentality of I'd rather to bring my kids to McDonald's rather than cooking a pasta at home or to go to a small cafe where they use quality ingredients.
Absolutely.
So if you change this mentality, you will change the future of your children because they will choose good food instead junk food.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can put it very simply for you. How many times as a child did you eat a McDonald's, Enrico?
Never.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, like if you're talking about a punchline, I just sort of think to myself that, and I guess and this is not to have a go because this is about Australia, because I think this happens wherever it is. But having come from the UK, I was very much, I guess down south, farm area, farmland. You respect how hard these people work to put the produce on the table, so to speak. But then we come here and there is almost a laxy-daisy, which, for want of a better, a lazy approach to that mindset of what you're choosing. And it's maddening because I think to myself, there can't be many places in the world that can boast what Australia has, for instance. But everywhere, when you look at it, has got the same opportunity to make exactly what you said, which is a choice between, am I choosing, for instance, McDonald's, or am I choosing either to make it at home, which seems to be becoming more and more alien to people, which must be sad to you, but also not to support your local, walk on foot.
And to connect on this, the quantity over quality, many people mistake and say, he just put me, not much topping. And I'm very fair on toppings. It has to be equal and has to have a balance. I always work in balance in my pizza because this is important. Balance in life is important, but in food is even more because, like I say, I can cook you the best dough, the best ham, but if I put too much ham or too much tomato or less cheese, you're going to have something that is not balanced in the end of the day. Or if I put too much acid instead saltiness, so savory. So people sometimes, because they used to do too much on topping, they don't understand what does it mean an equal point of view. That's something, one of probably the saddest part of my job is not because I think that my pizza is the best. Don't get me wrong. Every pizza maker thinks that they do the best pizza. But in my case, I have technical skills to make a good pizza. After that, I always say first to every time that I teach is pizza's like wine. You like what you like. If you tell me, Enrico, I love Domino's, I cannot say no because that's your personal taste. But when we go down to skills on making the dough or making the pizza, I can tell you, then I can give you a top quality product. So sometimes you have these things that, they compare you to pizzeria, then I know for the fact they are a disaster, technically speaking, disaster. They never even want to go, there for a drink. And that's when you, like I said, that's when you start to realize how much people still have to learn about pizza.
Absolutely. But in life, I think what you're saying there is actually applicable to all areas of life, which is why I love these conversations, Enrico, just so you know, you spark off these fireworks for me. But I just think that it's really important that you don't know what you don't know. You don't know but you can be mindful, like you touched on there about mindfulness. You can be mindful that, and I have a story for you, but you can be mindful that perhaps the man who's grown up with pizza in his heritage knows a wee bit more about it than, let's say, the 17-year-old who's at Domino's, who's just earning his way, which good on him, he's doing a great thing, but he doesn't know what you know.
Absolutely. Look, coming from Surrey Hills and Sydney, where you don't really see a producer, I was always invited to Orange in New South Wales, rural New South Wales, to do some, chef night. They used to invite me to do pizza with the local produce, and that's when I start to missing a little bit my hometown or my area in Italy, where it's really, like I say, rustic style, very old school town.
Yes, I had a look. It's very beautiful.
I know Bassano is beautiful. It is beautiful. River, mountain, 20 minutes, 1 hour from Venice, 1 hour from Verona. Yeah. So we're quite lucky.
Absolutely.
But I started missing the concept of, okay, I go to Orange, speak with the winemaker back then, go there, try. So it was fantastic. And when I sold my restaurant, I say, well, that's, another option is to live there, but it was quite remote. It's 5-hour driving. But a friend of mine is a chef. He was here in South Australia. Said, come if I come from Christmas. It was just opening the border after the COVID.
Yes.
And I said, yeah, you know what, let's go. And as soon as I landed here, I really felt like home. As soon as I landed, I'd never been to South Australia. People was telling me, what are you going to do in South Australia? There's nothing to do there. And it's, of course, go down on what do you want to do in your life. You know what I mean? I was looking for more to stay in nature and connecting with land. And as soon as I landed, I went to the hills where they live, and it was fantastic. I felt very peaceful. Went to the beach, another 40-minute driving. I travel a little bit around and I say, well, this is perfectly fit for my lifestyle, for what I really want to do. And to also, like I say, I felt straight away, there is so much crops, so much small businesses, then you really feel like if you like this way to live, it's fantastic. Yeah. That's what really drew me, is the nature, is the way then, there is everything in South Australia, everything then suit my lifestyle,
Yes,
some
that
people
you were looking
came
for.
Here, they say, there is nothing to do, I really want to go back to Sydney. Fair enough, someone is really different perception and, lifestyle. For me, especially for this farm to table, this slow food connection, be able to speak with, my neighbor, as I said before, I don't say that seems like my grandpa, but I really attached to him because he's really like my, having, my grandpa in Italy, where they really have this love for what they're doing.
Yeah.
They love their job. He's 75 and he's super in shape, and he loves to work in the crops every single day.
Which doesn't surprise me, just because he's doing what he loves, and he's still doing it at 75, and he looks good for it. And it's not about what you look like. I'm trying to say he's obviously good for it. He's better for having made that decision. Yeah. And it's so nice that you have that connection that you found somewhere, which is not completely dissimilar to the environment that you grew up in with regards to a community, a smaller community, and rural, so to speak. But it's really interesting because I've had this conversation maybe 3 times now where people have said they've landed somewhere and they just say, I feel like home, even though it's a very long way away from what you called home. It just feels like home, which is, again, I guess, about knowing yourself. But having then, let me ask you this, Enrico, obviously that mindfulness that you talked about, you seem very considered, and you try to work with intention about what you do, both professionally and personally. Has that helped clear the runway, so to speak, to making these life decisions, so that now you know what you want, you can go and find it?
And I always think, it's a funny thing, because we always think that we reach a point in our life, where we think that we are mature enough and we know what we want. But every year or so, I always think the same, and always think that a year before I reach that point. But I really, that's really being mindful, study mindfulness in deep, teaching, in a mindful way as much as possible. We're human beings, we mistake, we do things, that's part of life. We learn, it's a constantly learn. But it really cleared out in a more cold mind what to, not to fight for, but what's your belief, belief can change. Like I say, they change often, especially when we see information, we believe something many, many years ago, especially when we're talking about politics, way to do things.
Yes.
But when you apply this one in life and you start to feel what make you feel good, that's slightly different, because now I'm 37, I'm not 20 anymore. I have to give him more space to what make me feel good. Then it's not an emotional point of view of, I drink, I go out, I party, because that's something that, is be part of community. That's different.
Yes.
Be part of something.
Yes.
Here is about how you feel in terms of yourself, when you feel good, when you go out from your home and you're happy to be there.
Yes.
And in Sydney, I never could find that. I always find myself out of the box. People generally colder, more work side, more rich country, more rich, city, where 90%, from my point of view back then, was, they all rich. I'm the backpackers that need to work 60 hours a week to make a living and share the house. So I never felt like, go out, I don't know anyone. And it's when I was 17, 20, when I arrived, I felt a little bit liberated, because in Italy you have too much of that. Everyone judging you because you're a small town. But on the long run, you start to understand that, I go now home in Italy, I go out by myself, and I end up in a bar, drink a few beers with my friend, even though then we didn't, call. I think you change your belief, and you start to feeling when you're more adult, something that make you feel part of something. And and I believe as a human being, we need to find something to pass on to someone else, or to someone, or to something. So, and if for a fulfilled life, I think that's probably one of the, not secret, but was something that we need to address as a human being, of what we want to pass into.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise there is no way to live this life. You know what I mean? Like, there is no, if we don't think ahead for next generation, or to give our mark in this world, we just live like a robot, and that's nonsense for me.
No, and I look, you really touched me with that, because I resonate with everything that you said there so wholeheartedly. It's like, that's why I love this, Enrico. I've never met you before today. I've seen your things, but I already feel like I know you inside. Then that's why I think the beauty of a good conversation is so important. Like I said to you, my favorite question to ask people is, which is really the premise of the whole podcast, I guess you would say. But for me, it's not a podcast, it's a collection of great conversations, which I personally have done much better for. But having spoken with you today, I feel like it reminds me why I do it. It's so important that you find other people that you go straight away. I've never known you before. Like you said, 37 years, me too. We're 37 years down the track. I've just met you, but I feel like I've known you a long time. And that's a really great thing to have as a conversation, And,
it is.
And then to say to yourself, well, from that, there's no doubt in my mind you will have inspired the fact that I will work harder on my zero waste, because exactly like you said, we pass things on to each other. Surely that's what it's all about. And when my daughter was born, I guess for me, the whole point of these great conversations and teaching each other how to have a great conversation, because that's certainly something that I have found. I'm sure you will have found the same, having worked in an industry so about people. There are a lot of people now, maybe not so much when I was younger, but a lot of people now who don't know how to have a good conversation. So it's a skill in itself to be able to listen to someone and actually hear.
Yeah, no, look, to be honest, it is true, and very hard to find people then first has knowledge. Those days, people think that we have more knowledge because we have more social media, but they lack in every single life experience, because they think the life experience go through a screen.
Yes.
And they think then they learn, everything by by a screen, but is actually is what you feel, what you experience, when you mistake, how many times you try and everything. But yeah, this is hard to get people then really you can sit down and have a drink, have a coffee, and really chat about life,
Absolutely.
And all my friend, is like that. Sometimes we complain about, it's so hard those days, having a conversation without starting with a very narrow mindset of,
Yes.
I think about this is what it is, and that's it. It's part of, human, be, black and white, but we always have to be open for a gray area sometimes to, consider other people's point of view. And this is basically you apply in every single day, people's mind and people living,
Yeah. And I should imagine that comes down to as well the way that people leave you from a point of view, like if someone's been with you for teaching, or if they've been with you because they've come to the restaurant and they've sat down and they've had something that you've made for them, which I think everybody mistakes that that's what it is, that you have made them a meal to enjoy and share and create their moment and experience over. So it's quite a special gift to give to someone as well.
Yeah. And look, sometimes in life, more do you know, more do you feel, sometimes more you expect. Expectation, unfortunately, are probably the worst cause of many different things: stress, anxiety, depression, because it go down in a way, I do the best and people doesn't appreciate it. And that's happened, unfortunately, many times. So sometimes I think, if I don't have those knowledge, probably will be sometimes better, because if you don't have knowledge, you might driven by ego or stupidity, because you think that is good what you have.
Yes.
But when you truly know then what you're doing is the best, and after it's not appreciated by others, it really hurts sometimes.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I learned with the years to have try to have a very cold mind and not looking into other people jobs or social media, or when they award people, or
Yeah.
and I let it go. I try to let it go a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's really healthy, and it's actually something that I will say I came up with this concept in my mind when I was making the anything that I put forward, I always try to say it should be dependably positive, because there's then that's one thing I would like to be known for, is that you're getting something positive out of the conversation. Doesn't mean everything you have to discuss is as a good thing, but everything should be able to have a positive thing that comes from it.
Absolutely.
Which is amazing.
Absolutely.
And so then with all this juggle, because there's a lot of things that have to be juggled, particularly between teaching and the fact that you are now in a new place, which obviously you're loving. So that's fantastic, makes it all easier. But I always have a question about how you stay creatively topped up, Enrico.
So my nature, or Sagittarius, I don't know where you want to go, star sign. I'm a very dynamic person, and today and yesterday was my day off. I get extremely bored. I was so looking forward to this podcast and to recording, because I'm a very active person, and on the food I get bored quite easily, to be honest. On the creativity point of view, I find myself I assume that people that come to eat my pizza, they come often. In Italy you go once a week.
Yes.
And find always the same pizza is actually boring, So first, to keep myself more also in the food industry. So I'm not a chef, but lucky for me, I work with a very talented chef. I've been invited as a chef sometimes, because I can see that I have a very good balance and palate as well. I love to explore on pizza something that recall me, give me sometimes emotion, give me sometimes what I think then is, good combination, slightly different than everyone else. Because, you used to go in Australia, especially, every single pizzeria have exactly the same pizza all the time, every time, and it's extremely bored. So for me, working with, first, of course, ingredients, then they are in season. For example, I did very simple, Tuscan kale with pork sausage and chili. Now Tuscan kale is going to an end. because it's so that's pushing me to find something that now start to grow for spring summer. So the creativity is something that every chef has to have. When we are in the industry of you need to be creative. You need to use creativity. And let's say I always try to put myself in something that I really want to eat, then I were missing from home, or some plate, then I check online or Instagram or social media where something that not people do it.
Yes.
For example, 2016, 17, we were probably the first one in Europe, in the world, actually, myself and the chef, that we make carbonara and amatriciana pizza. So
Amazing.
we twisted from the pasta, we retwisted into the pizza. Now it's become very popular. Everyone does it, but we were probably one of the first. Back then, it was not many social media, so what I could feel that not many people doing it.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
Maybe someone was doing it in Italy. I don't want to say that I was the first, but I felt like they were one of the first because I never saw it around. An Italian food guide that is the most important in the world for us. They asked me to do a video regarding the carbonara pizza. So all those situations where you come out with something that is slightly unique and authentic, so and also balance out to enjoy. That's the most important part. So it has to be something that is can be a little bit gourmet, but not too niche, not too for only few people. For everyone that can be enjoyable, enjoying a pizza. So be creative, I think, is part of curiosity as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because it touches on actually it's very reticent of a conversation I had with Chef Andrew Gravett. He's the pastry chef at the Langham Hotel in London. And he was saying that over the course of his career, it's done like the full trajectory of, you go through this phase of wanting to impress by using ingredients that nobody's ever heard of or tasted. And then he came to this realization later on in his career that actually the most important thing is to taste something that does, as you say, give you that feeling of either nostalgia or this is really clever. This is a really clever taste. And it's amazing that your journeys in some ways have been similar, not at all the same, but that your creativity comes from that same place of trying to make it connect with the people as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely. And that's, like I say, I agree with the chef saying, is something that has to create a sensation, a feelings, a good time, a good moment, and also what you like. Like all the pizza that I have in my menu is something that I genuinely love to eat.
Fantastic, yeah.
And sometimes the pizza then they are less like people doesn't choose at all are probably one of my favorite too. But because in Australia especially, people goes with one ingredient that they know and they go with that all the time.
Yeah.
There is pizza that unfortunately I cannot take it out of the menu because everyone asked me for like the salami pizza, pepperoni salami, whatever. So what I did instead, now I make my own salami. We have 300 or 400 kilo on the way, and I try to change the little bit of topping with the salami, something to get on the back of the palate different. But that's something that people really, they just read salami and they choose salami. They don't see anything else, And some people, understandable, they go and come in for that, they're looking forward to that. But at the same time, I always, suggest to try to share a different pizza, different tastes.
Surely one of the easiest things in the world to try something new, because you do. Well, my husband and I are unanimous. We have pizza out. We would get two, and then we have basically half of each other's, and try. Always one is a gamble, but that's just how we live. One is always a gamble, and you're always. I've never eaten something that with a gamble, so to speak, that I've gone, actually that was a really bad mistake. You never regret it because you always learn something from that taste or enjoy it somehow, which is amazing.
Look, of course, you choose some ingredient. We don't like any, all the ingredient is, unrealistic saying, but I think if you have a group of people, if you want to try a little bit slightly different, and that's something that, I always suggest to customers. I always try to stimulate they thought about this ingredient. I never thought that could be on pizza, or something interesting combination. And that's why you keep yourself, also for me, stimulate on doing, and
Thinking
keep it
ahead.
up with
Yeah.
the job that I do.
Yeah.
Sometimes, honestly, I go around, even traveling, I looking around, and I see something that might be inspire me for a pizza, and I do it.
Fantastic. Yeah. And then you can explore that and try that. And it leads me to ask then, because this is probably one of the you're such a busy bee already,
Yeah.
but you're obviously very hungry for what you do, if you excuse the pun. So what is it that you're looking forward to next for you? Like, what's on the radar?
It's a good question. I have two things in mind. The first one is, of course, I would like to open a small bakery. I love bakery. I think
Fantastic.
bread is the ingredient, the food that really give you, especially for Italian point of view, but any country, I think, fresh bread, it really draw you back on your childhood.
Absolutely.
Every time that I eat bread, then you remind me when my mom used to give me 500 lire, so it was still lira, and I used to go 200 meters from my home. There used to be, a bakery, and they used to give me in my hand. So me and my friend back then, we were probably 5, 6, 10, eating bread, hot bread out of the oven. And I think, bread is even more combined with this zero waste. It really kind of, make me feel bread is the best connection on anything. When we eat bread with something, it's fantastic. Sometimes I bring bread to people, to my friend, and they, when they love it, you really get the satisfaction, because bread is something that we born with,
Yeah,
especially in
absolutely.
Italy.
Yeah, no, it is very. I guess you would say it's a very common thread, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So that is one thing that I would like to
Very
explore in the
exciting.
future.
Yes.
The second, as I always talk about this, is I would like to do some appearance on bigger screen,
Hmm.
because I feel and I think that not that I deserve it, but I give in a lot in this industry.
Yes.
And I think an opportunity to be able to spread, a fun way to do any baking situation, anything in the TV or something, Funny enough, many people, and there's something honest saying, many people text me all the time, say, why a master chef? Why you don't
Well,
invite it?
I agree.
Why you're not invited to food, SBS food, or why you're not invited in any media things to give you, the recognition that
Yes.
people,
And a platform,
and
I think it comes down to a larger, much well-deserved platform to pass on your knowledge. Otherwise,
exactly.
you're going to keep fighting for the 200 people at a time, when really you could be getting 2 million people in one go.
And because my skills in Australia is unique, the way that I do, the way that I can see bread, food, pizza, is a connect in a way that not many people can do, like myself at the moment. I don't say that I am the best, don't get me wrong, but I say that I am quite unique of what I can do,
Absolutely.
and especially with this zero waste, can really impact people, by this. And this is something that I still have to punch through, because it's a very, very delicate topic in a way that, unfortunately, if you don't know someone, that's simply speaking, if you don't know someone very well, means
Yes.
that this person want to give you an opportunity,
Yes.
it's extremely hard to go in this circle.
Yeah, it is. It is. You're very right. It's who you know, not what you know sometimes, which is completely unfair, because the what you know is just so very incredible and special. And particularly when you are someone who's so passionate to share it with people for the right reasons, which I think is a really important factor as well. That, you never know, Enrico, you never know who's listening. That's what I always,
That is always honest and thing, when they ask me, when they, people interview or something, that's what I would like to do, because I think, people, when you hear something like that and you start talking about, recycling and connected food, I think can be inspiring for others.
Oh,
And that's why,
absolutely. Yeah. And essential, really.
essential.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're very much getting to that point, aren't we? Where if it's not essential now, I don't know when it's not going to be. So,
absolutely.
which is amazing. And I love that there's that it reflects you so much. You've got this aspiration of opening something up that's quite humble in lots of ways. You know, opening up your own bakery is quite a humble aspiration, because you know that it's about the people, that you want that connection with people. And I think that's really beautiful. Likewise, then being able to take what you know is really important, that you have in your skill set and your knowledge, and to be able to share that with as many people as you can for the aspiring concept. I just think that shows that balance again that you were talking about earlier, that you're just wonderfully balanced person.
Yeah, look, like I say, it became with the years. When I had my restaurant in Sydney, I really suffered about recognition and meritocracy, and I really have to work on myself on that and understand that life is like this. There is million of talent people like myself that doesn't have an opportunity in life, and million of people that not deserve to be there, they are there. And it's that's life. It is what it is, and we cannot change it.
No.
So I really come down. Then if I cannot, I go to my path, and I'm for people. I help people, and that's what I want to do. I want to help the planet, and I want to share my knowledge. And if one day things come along, it's good. I'm ready. I know, like I say, I have my skill set, then it's quite high for the industry here in Australia. And so that is
and around the world. Bless you.
Around the world.
Yeah.
Look, in a funny way, I was much more popular in Italy than in Australia while I was living in Italy, in Australia, not
I
in
guess
Italy.
It comes down to, though, again, that knowledge of people in Italy, I would imagine, have a far greater understanding and appreciation of the knowledge and the skill that you are applying, and to the mastery level that it is, than what you're sort of trying to tell people here is a mastery, but not necessarily felt in the same way.
Yeah, true. It's correct. When I opened my restaurant, my pizzeria was very unique. It was being tipped off by the best chef in the world, Massimo Bottura. He tipped off my pizzeria. And some pizzeria in Italy, they were asking me, can we copy or take inspiration from some of your pizza? And I say always, yeah, no problem. Now those pizzeria are the best in Italy. So, that is the funny things.
It is. It's funny, but then it shows you the importance of keeping the humility that you've got, because I do believe that great things do come to great people, and if you just stick at it long enough, it will.
Absolutely. And that's when in Connected before, when you ask me why you like to teach, because I learned from there, then I need to do something myself to be able to, start to educate people on this, because it's only by education, then people start to use their mind to, like I say, choose. For me, giving quality, giving these things is to choose between support me and me support other small business, or support corporate and support people that might don't do with that good skills, so that is what they come down.
Yeah, and it's a very simple ethos, and I love that you stand by it in every area of your life, Enrico, which is so important. So I mean, I guess it's really watch this space. That's what I would like to say is, Enrico going forward, and it really is. It's such a journey that you've been on, but I get the distinct feeling that you're very much at the start of something too, which is really exciting.
Look, I think every day is a new start. Every day there's an opportunity. So that's, I wake up all excited every morning, because with the hope that something good happening,
Yes.
and that's my way to go every morning, and I wake up. And
that comes across in every part of you, Enrico. That just is what I get from you in every essence of what you discuss. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, this is, I think we all take life differently. We all do things. I'm feel lucky then I can do what I love, and I make out of what I love my job. I'm sure that my job, like as a flower technician, it will be disappearing sooner or later as a job, because now everything's very reachable, even out of courses. You can now learn by sitting down on your couch. Definitely, you will miss always the manual touch, but you can have a very good understanding of what's going on the baking life, but in every single aspect of life. So we will have people that might have high knowledge but very low skill set on real life. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
theoretically, they know what they doing because they study probably, but they don't know how to apply properly on the job itself.
Which is so true about the concept of why you do something you're passionate about, because you will actually apply yourself to it. You know, I think what you said earlier about not living through a screen and believing that has been a life experience, that's something that you've ingested, but it's not a life experience. So actually turning up and doing the hours that you've done, even just when you were learning, or even, to be fair, going back further than that, the hours that you spent as a young lad in a kitchen with family members who were probably, you could argue, in their stature, the best in the world anyway at what they were doing, because, you know, in Italy, it's that's part of the culture, and so it's very much a part of you, which is so exciting. And I think that's what makes it so lovely to watch your journey, is because you keep applying yourself, you keep reapplying yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, look, it's funny things that now people think that they invented everything, especially in baking, but they forget then before social media, right, we all was doing the same things over and over. So people think they invented the round wheel today because they retwisted in a cool way in social media, by forgetting that we were doing the same things 20 years ago with half of the knowledge that we have now, and with half of the equipment that we have now, and we're growing up to that. So, and
certainly a lot less eyeballs looking at the end result, which is what I get from you, is you don't do what you do for the eyeballs, you do what you do because you love it, which is why I always say to people, speaking with people who authentically love what they do is such an exciting thing, because you will always take something from it. I'm not about to go and be a flower technician. I assure you, I have not the skill nor the knowledge to even remotely give that a go, but I will have taken so much away from this conversation that I can apply to my own passions. I think that's the most important thing about what you're passing on.
Of course, when we see people, sometimes it are completely different job than we do, a completely different way, but the way then they speak, the way then they talk about themselves or their job can really inspire in some other way us too,
Absolutely. Well, you've certainly inspired me, Enrico, and I can't wait to keep watching your journey and to hopefully get down there and see you very soon, sir, in person. Would be wonderful.
And one day always come up to Brisbane Gold Coast for work, for consulting often.
So I'm here anytime. It'd be lovely to share a real. I'll let you have your coffee. I'll have my tea. Hey, we'll call that a cultural divide. Thank you so much for today, Enrico. I can't thank you enough. It's just been a marvelous conversation. You're a fantastic human. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, and I really enjoyed the time spent with you. Have a really lovely chat, and I hope people at home enjoyed it this time. And I hope this, like every other podcast you did, they really have much more people than really willing to, enjoy the time and spending the time while they're driving, they're home, and, because they are all inspiring in a way or another.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that, Enrico. It means so very much. Well, thank you. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon.
You too. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.